Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today we will be reviewing Volume 2 of Monsters We Make. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a couple things. Okay, so first of all, I have only one other review video on my channel, A Quiet Place Day 1, which did pretty well, if I do say so myself. And in that review, I listed the bad first, and then the good, because I had more negative to say than positive. With this review, I'll be doing the reverse because I have many more praises than complaints. Also, this is your reminder to please subscribe so I know how many of my viewers are out there, and so you'll be notified of my next upload. Now, on to the review. Let's set up the world that is explored in Monsters We Make. A group of 3 people enter a convenience store searching for something. The cashier is creepy and clearly off, but nothing too out of the ordinary happens until he hears one of them say the word investigate. The cashier then turns into a monster and kills all of them. We then cut to our protagonist. Jabari Booker, a musical prodigy, has just been accepted to New Eden Academy with a full scholarship. After a couple of run-ins with different students and a brief training session, Jabari is informed by Madam Dean, Dean of New Eden, that he has no choice but to join a group of students whose job it is to use their exceptional abilities to kill leakers, or humans that can turn into monsters. Jabari is placed in Alpha Team with Han, Allie, September, and Liam, their captain. Volume 1 ends with Jabari struggling just to keep up with his team in a fight with a leaker. They emerge victorious, but are chastised by Madam Dean at the beginning of Volume 2 for not only failing to capture the original leaker they were after, but also for causing a substantial amount of destruction while doing so. The group of 3 that we see die in the first chapter of Volume 1 is part of Delta Team, and the cashier that killed them is the leaker that Alpha Team had been told to hunt. It is not until Volume 2, however, that we learn that Delta Team's hunt was not, as Madam Dean puts it, sanctioned, and so their death is seen as more tragic than anything else, and a lesson for the others. As I said before though, that trio is part of Delta Team. Not all members of Delta Team are dead. Wraith is the last surviving member, and he is on a path of vengeance for his friends. Alpha and Delta, along with Beta and Gamma, make up Vector 1. The rest of the manga is showing each member of Vector 1's abilities and rivalries as tensions rise between certain individuals. So let's focus on the good. This novel is even more interesting than the first one, mainly due to world building via relationships. We get to see more of the hounds and watch them interact with each other. For instance, we see that the bully Jabari meets briefly is actually the leader of Gamma Team and is basically anti-Jabari. While Jabari is established as cocky and confident, he is still easy to get along with, protective of his family, and overall a good-natured person. The bully Fane, on the other hand, has those cocky, confident traits cranked up to 11, and as you can tell from the label bully, is definitely not winning over anyone with charm anytime soon. And of course, having these 2 large, strong personalities working together in any capacity is going to cause a clash, which is how this manga ends. Wraith so far is probably my favorite character. His dark, twisted nature, along with his fighting style and struggle to maintain the darkness in him, reminds me a lot of Ghostface from Ben 10, and I'll talk more about other characters that are carbon copies of others, or even just downright tropes, but for Wraith, he is definitely fitting the tortured soul archetype. Maybe we'll see him mellow out even more than he did in this book, but for right now, the guy is emotionally unstable in the saddest way possible, and it was nice seeing him come to terms with that after he loses a fight with September. I'm interested to see more of Madame Dean, as well as who controls her from beyond the shadows, because in Volume 1, I thought that it was heavily implied that she was in charge of everything. But after rereading that and seeing her talk to what can only be described as her boss on the computer, she is definitely not in control, so I would like to see all that lore played out. Liam is another character shrouded in mystery. In both volumes, September tries to pry into Liam's head, understand his motives, learn more about his personal life, but each time she hits a brick wall. Now don't get me wrong, it has become more and more apparent that September is Jabari's love interest and vice versa, but my point is that Liam is clearly hiding something. We still up to this point don't even get to see what Liam can do in battle. In fact, that is the cliffhanger of this manga. The last panel of Volume 2 is Liam getting ready to fight Fane in order to protect an unconscious Jabari, so I can't wait to see what Liam is capable of either. Allie has toned down a little bit in this volume, probably because in the first one she doesn't have almost any respect for Jabari, which is understandable and I'll get to that later, but in this one we can see in real time how Allie is trying to support her team. And that now includes Jabari, whereas in the first volume, once again, understandably, her main focus was telling him to stay out of the way. Jabari is also more toned down in this book, thank goodness. If I would have been able to produce a Volume 1 review, I would have labeled Jabari and Allie my least favorite characters. Allie because she was, in my opinion, too sassy and degrading to someone that she knows is new, and Jabari because of the personality traits that I mentioned earlier. I like the idea of a confident protagonist that doesn't need to learn how to stand up for himself and others, but I thought that Jabari was borderline annoying to the point where I was losing engagement. He was so arrogant, in fact, that when he simply asked for advice on how to fight Fane in this newest volume, his team was genuinely shocked. That's how bad it was. But after learning how the suits work and how each hound hones their abilities, Jabari realizes that he really doesn't know anything at all. He realizes that if he wants him, his teammates, and his family to survive, he needs to shape up and humble himself to get the most out of training. And seeing Jabari actually apply a lesson in humility was a really nice moment of character growth that made him 10 times more likable for me personally. As for the other characters, we didn't get to see that much more than some dialogue here and a panel of fighting there. Han had more funny moments and a pretty cool line where he said, in response to Wraith asking him if Alpha Team knows they're fighting alongside a traitor, it's better than fighting alongside a monster. Other than that, we see as much of Han as we did before, and don't get anything different. Not that I'm complaining though, I like Han as a character, but I think there's a reason why. We've seen this time and time again with any sort of media we've ever consumed in the history of humankind, so this might not be a con depending on who you ask, but I noticed in Volume 1 that each of these characters are archetypes. A character archetype, according to Backstage.com, is a fictional character based on a common stereotype that is easily recognizable by audiences. So let's go ahead and break down our main cast. Jabari is, or probably was, the happy-go-lucky main character. He loves the people who love him, stands up against any type of injustice in an almost robotic, automatic fashion, and will fight to the death for righteousness. I've noticed this mostly in anime, so my examples of this are Naruto, Luffy, and Gon. One more thing I do want to know, however, is that I have a sneaking suspicion that Jabari is a Cory Kenshin self-insert. You could make the argument that Jabari doesn't necessarily speak like Cory, but just speaks in AAVE, African American Vernacular English for short, but there have been times where I'll read a line of Jabari's in Cory's voice, and it's not just Jabari's flavor of slang either, it's the things he actually says. Now, it goes without saying that self-inserts, even obvious self-inserts, should not be considered a red flag by themselves. However, it can be assigned to someone, not me, but someone, as amateur writing and could be distracting for those who want to read a manga that just so happened to be written by Corey Kenshin instead of a Corey Kenshin manga. Does that make sense? I don't know. I could be wrong, but in case I'm not, that was something I wanted to bring up. Moving on to Allison. She could be seen as tomboyish due to her short hair and short temper. She's strong, and she's no nonsense with a love for fighting. My examples of her are more Western though. Buttercup, Ashley Spinelli, and Gogo Tomogo. Han is the nerd, obviously. And it's not just the glasses either. He's got an affinity for gadgets, and he's the character that gives Jabari the rundown on how the suits work. And I could be wrong about this. He appears to be the weakest in the group other than Jabari himself. My nerd examples are Milo, Dr. Eggman, and Dexter. September, in all honesty, is the girl. She's kind, she's pretty, she's the peacemaker, and her power involves the manipulation and growing of plants. This isn't to say she's weak. Fane is terrified of her. She beat Wraith in their sparring match, and the only reason she lost to Ren, that we know of, is because she was distracted from Liam stonewalling her in the hallway. But that also fits her girl archetype. She, in that moment, was taking a caregiver role and lost due to the emotional labor of worrying and caring about Liam. My examples of the girl archetype are the Pink Power Ranger, Ochako, and Hinata. Finally, Liam is just the leader. He's protective of his team, takes responsibility for Jabari's failure, always has a plan, and is a laid-back captain who does his best to get the job done. The leader archetype examples I have are Commander Erwin, Shikamaru, and Fred. Other than that, it's too early to say how the story can be improved. These first two volumes are nothing but setup, lore, and world building, so I don't know if anyone has already said anything like, "This series sucks," or "Corey Kenshin needs to stick to playing video games," but whoever's saying that is jumping the gun. I mean, if this series is as long as a typical manga, this isn't even 10% of the entire plot. But in conclusion, I'm enjoying the story so far, and I can't wait for Volume 3. Thanks everyone for watching. Good night.